Okay, so did you go to IJA in 1997?
Nope, 98 was my first one. That was Pittsburgh?
Yeah, Pittsburgh was the 50th anniversary.
Missed it.
Okay, so there was the one thing they did there. It was the first year Tim Roberts organized the European Showcase. That's when like Luke Wilson and Ilka came over and Dinny and Toon and also Jörg Mueller.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So Jörg Mueller did his pendulums, his pendulum juggling. And we had actually known about Jörg Mueller's act before that, some of us. But I mean, it was the first time to see it in person, and it was just such a sensation. And you know, after that like passing zone, they got fascinated with pendulum juggling, and eventually came up with the people juggling thing that they did on America's Got Talent and whatever. And I mean, a lot of people love Jörg's Jörg's pendulum routine, as you can see by the amount of people, you know, ripping it off. But everybody was kind of obsessed with that piece. And I remember a couple of things. In 1996, you know, Greg Kennedy went to the IJA with his bowl, where he rolled balls in it. And one of the things I remember him telling me about the bowl was the idea that it's pendulum juggling, like that. Those are the when you roll a ball in the bowl, it's the path that a ball would take if it was suspended on a string in like a pendulum. But there's some sort of thought about this, and he has some ideas about having an inverted bowl on the ceiling with magnets so that the ropes would slip past each other and not get tangled and whatever. And then thinking about this idea of tracing those paths on the bowl from the inverted underneath to then, oh, you can roll the ball inside the bowl, whatever. So what I'm trying to say is, and you know, like I said, me and Greg, we did the triangle thing together around that same year. And we were all obsessed with pendulums and this pendulum juggling by Jörg Mueller and everything. And I was really, really obsessed with trying to find an inverted pendulum somehow, because I didn't want to rig things. I thought like pendulum juggling was cool. I mean, I didn't want to just do what he did. I wanted to explore the idea, but I didn't want to rig things. Like, I'm a juggler, like I'm a ground-based act, and having to deal with, you know, wires and climbing and drilling holes and stuff. It was just not fun, and not something I wanted to invest time in either. And Jörg had done it. I mean, I wanted to find something new, so I really, really, really tried so many ways to find what I would call an inverted pendulum somehow, or a freestanding pendulum. I mean, a pendulum with a fulcrum on the floor, on the ground, like an inverted one. Maybe like the slow motion dominoes could be a version of that in a very, very small way, right? Like it's just especially the mail boxes, the mailing boxes that I tape to the floor. It's kind of like a inverted, at least lever or something, if not a pendulum in that way. Anyway, I failed like completely, like I didn't find anything. But this is maybe the one result that came out of it that I used one time. Because I never used this, nothing really came out of it, but this was an attempt to be Jörg Mueller, basically. This was an attempt that we were all obsessed with Jörg's act. And I used it at some IJA. You were in it, that piece. We did this, the Flying Walinda's family for a couple of years. Yep. And there was the year that Hide and Tomoko, they had some like puzzle cube thing that interlocked in different ways, and we had a bunch of different props on stage, and this was one of them. Nice. And so then this was just like you stand here to anchor the device, and then this is just they just swing out like this, and of course this is I don't know when Michael Karras made his. I mean, I think he made his probably, I don't know, same time, or I don't remember what year we did that. You know, Michael Karras has everybody in America knows about Michael Karras' piece with the pipes swinging back and forth. And I think in recent times too, even on like Greg Kennedy's YouTube channel, you can see they made like a version of this that's like really long or something from Michael's pipes. I had this idea back when I made this that the curved, for some reason I had this idea, this is the whole idea of the prop, it's so stupid. That when you're swinging it, it's going to make like just a half circle that exists in space, like as an image, right? Sure. So like when this swings out, it kind of completes that part of the circle, and that this kind of image of the. You're so kind. It was nice. But that was kind of the idea, is that I wanted to make a structure, this like half circle appear in space that wasn't real, that wasn't solid. It was just an optical illusion in one way. And that idea came from Anthony Gatto, because if you look at the top of Anthony Gatto's 7-club pattern from the side, it looks like there's just a club spinning in space continuously.
Right.
It's like an optical illusion because he's so precise with his throws and just the nature of the you know how many clubs there are. Like it's just it repeats just enough that you get that persistence of vision of that image or whatever.
Cool.
So this trick is like it's like Jörg Müller. It's like Jörg Müller and Anthony Gatto, and it's like terrible. But like that was where that's where it came from. Yeah. So that was kind of this attempt, and we just used it that one time in the Flying One End in the public show. But I don't know. I'm still obsessed with that idea of like Jörg Müller's pendulums is still one of the best things that's ever been done with juggling. And like, would there be some sort of opposite version of the pendulums? I mean, Greg Kennedy has had a bunch of really nice attempts at that. Like he has these really flexible, wispy things. It's also very beautiful. Maybe it's the best version of an inverted Jörg Müller, but
Sure.
Anyway, there was this funny thing.
Couldn't you just like whip it in a big circle?
Yeah. I mean, definitely. So like, I think Michael Karras. I mean, I think it's literally the same construction on Michael Karras's, and he has like 5 pipes instead of 3, and there's no like sticks on the bottom.
Right.
And then his sticks are generally like shorter, so then he could really have a 360-degree thing, which was definitely a better variation. And then with the one that Greg Kennedy and him worked on, I mean, Greg is elevated on like a step ladder because it's so big to manipulate. And again, going back to this idea of the swinging trapeze syndrome, this is literally, I mean, it's literally, and I knew that going into it, you know, it's literally like, that's it, you know, you're not going to get any new information. Like the stick, you know, the one stick swings like that. It's not going to, sure, it could go all the way around, you know, but like, even once it does that, well, you've done that. Like, it's not really, there's no twist, there's nothing that's really, Do
you feel like you found a cure for the flying trapeze syndrome?
I mean, I think in terms, sure. I mean, it depends. So flying trapeze syndrome also comes from many places. It comes from the context of the expectation of who you're performing for and what they think they're going to see. Because flying trapeze syndrome is great sometimes. It's wonderful. Like I'll give an example. Like we did Water on Mars. I was replacing Wes in Vegas with Pat and Tony. And sometimes they would put our act at the finale of the show. But by that point in the show, and normally we would do like second or third act in the show. And when the act was second or third act in the show, it's amazing. Like we juggle over the top of the audience in like 3 or 4 different ways. We're in and out of the audience on different stages. We're always switching around. We're jumping over here with balls, rings, and clubs, and toilet paper and water, and it's just like chaos for 4 minutes. And it's all on the music, and it's all really synchronized, and it's really like, it's a lot to watch. It's a lot of sensations. And you kind of literally have to pay attention to like, where are they now? Like they were just in front of me. Oh, now they're behind me. And like, now, like whatever. And so, when we would go second or third, the audience was always like super excited, like, wow, this is so cool. Look, they're juggling, amazing. And they're like clapping for juggling. It was really cool.
Nice.
When we go at the end of the show, the act was kind of dead because people by then were super drunk and super tired, and they just didn't have that ability to engage on that level. And that way the swinging trapeze syndrome would be better there, and it is. Like, so the type of acts that they usually put at the end, it's like the roller skating act. So you're on like a circle that's like a meter or 2 big, and you're just spinning in a circle for 8 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever. You're not going to skate over there. You're not going to skate up there. You're just skating like this. And if you're drunk and tired,
it's easy.
You just have to sit and stare at that and go, oh my God, they're going to die. And then you're done. You don't have to pay attention more than that. And so sometimes it's just the expectation of like, you know, where you're at, what they think they're going to see, what they can handle, the rhythm of what they can do. But one of the biggest things, if you want to avoid, I think, swinging trapeze syndrome, which by the way, there's some really great swinging trapeze artists that are awesome. But just it can also be the Diablo syndrome of like, I have to speed up the Diablo, and which obviously modern Diablos have overcome that. Like you don't see people speeding up Diablos anymore. It's just integrated into the technique. But a big thing of swinging trapeze syndrome is just surprise, like building surprises into your composition. So like, you know, like maybe I'm swinging this, and then all of a sudden at the end they light up. Not a very good twist, but it's a twist. Or maybe in the middle they light up, and then maybe there's like, you know, they spill out the Coca-Cola logo for the corporate event. I don't know. Or then the whole thing starts to spin, or then I jump on and I hang on one and I'm swinging on it, or I don't know. Or then I bust out some juggling balls. I'm doing this and juggling balls, or like you're building layers to something instead of just keeping in that same context. Basically.
Sure. Have you built, are any of the things you're going to show us today, like things that you've integrated that, or do they all feel like they have flying trapeze syndrome too?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep. I mean, we'll get into that a little bit more with some of the other things. But basically, that's why maybe, again, I haven't, figured out how to tour with these things, or they haven't stuck around in my work longer, because there is still that, I think, inherent problem with a lot of these sculptures or these objects. And I mean, even the Michael Motion triangle, the genius of the triangle of Michael Motion, besides, I mean, sure, technically it's a pretty innovative thing, but the genius of the piece is it's not about bouncing balls in a triangle, it's about rhythm. That's the genius part. So then you can get into the rhythm of things, and he evolves the rhythm, and that's the hook of the act. It's not just like, oh, he bounced the ball in the triangle, like what else now? Because that doesn't really change, but the rhythm is the hook, and that's what he understood when he made it. That's why that's just so amazing. So maybe if this would be about rhythm or something else besides it swinging, I'm telling a story, and then they stop, and then I don't know, but as a technique on its own, it doesn't really go anywhere. But it wasn't intended to either. I knew when I built this it was going to be one image. I just wanted to have that half circle persist in space that didn't exist. I was kind of interested in that concept. So, and I think this was the only prototype or version of this we built. It didn't evolve for anything. It didn't evolve from anything, and it didn't evolve to anything. It kind of just happened once, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess that was it. And then it was too big to deal with, to tour with, and the payoff wasn't worth it. But it's kind of funny. Again, comes up out of the floor in the Soleil show, and there's 50 people, and they each have one or something, and then
there you go.
We work on it.
Love it.
So then there's another. So that was a Jörg Mueller, Anthony Gatto trick. So this is from a few different places, a few different references, I'd say, that are related to this thing. I'll tell you what it is first, and I can tell you some of the related work.
Cool.
So basically, it's a site swap machine. Do you wanna? Do you get that when I say that, or I can explain it? But
yeah, sure. I mean, that one takes long. That's a higher throw.
There you go.
Yeah.
Done. Yeah. So it's we're talking site swap. I don't know what this is. Let's say it's a 3, 4, 5 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's just different lengths of time, different beats of time.
Yeah.
So this comes from a few different places that are really funny. One is Michael Menez. He had this thing called the coil up at the Celebration Barn Theater, and basically the way he described it is 360-degree rollabola. So it's a circle of wood with a little half dome on the bottom, so it's a 360-degree kind of rollabola kind of thing.
Okay.
And then on top of it is literally a coil of, I guess, wooden hoops that are, it's like a spring, a giant spring, right? Yep. And so you can stand on the platform, and as you wobble it with your body, you can get a ball to roll up the middle of the hoop or whatever.
Right.
And it was called the coil. And and we were always looking at that going you could totally do site swaps with that, because one revolution around would be a 3, and maybe twice around would be a 4 or a 5 or a 6, right? And you could start to do site swap patterns with the coil. But I remember Michael at the time was really not into site swap, or he was just no. He did a very artistic presentation of it and whatever. And again, I think the reason, I think the way he performed it was pretty compelling, but one of the reasons why it wasn't, you've never heard of it?
I've never heard of it.
You never heard of it? I think it didn't catch on in the larger scope of, object manipulation and juggling, because it was the one trick pony. The ball started going, and you're yep, it's gonna go to the top, and then it goes to the top, and he would catch it or whatever, And then he would do it with 5 balls at a time, and the 5 balls would be going around, and it looked really cool, but it didn't go anywhere, it didn't build, it was just pretty flat in terms of the structure. And we were really thinking me and my friends were like, yeah, but you could do sight swaps, and that would make it more exciting because you could do different heights of throws by lengths of time of it rolling. So that was kind of one reference for this. And so we always had this idea that we would stand inside a circular track, that would be like Michael inside his coil.
Mm-hmm.
And I would let go of the ball, and it would spiral around me once, and that'd be a 3, or I would let it go around, because it would be a spiral around me. And you could do sight swaps like that.
Yeah.
But of course, I never built the structure around me. It was like too much work. So this was like the compromise of like here's the shorter throw,
mm-hmm.
and then this is like the longer throw. It takes a longer time to come back.
Yeah.
And so this is like some sort of sight swap machine. And I used it in the show Building Weight, which I did at Ratnick Bowl
Mm-hmm.
in Minneapolis. And what can I say? It turned out like to not be that good either. Because in the end, you're just rolling balls on tracks. And like for me, as experiencing the juggling inside, I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That ball's going to go twice, which means this ball goes once, and they synchronize up.
Right.
But like, it's not even that fun. I mean, I don't think to watch it is anywhere near as fun as like, I don't know in all the patterns, right? But
right.
it's something like, whoa, and then they came back together.
Sure.
What you see is somebody rolling balls on 3 different levels.
I think so.
And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And that brings up another thing in circus, or juggling, but circus, whatever, is there's so many things that's way more fun to do than to watch.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this isn't fun to watch at all, but it's way more fun for me to nerd out on the math of the patterns than for you to like watch me perform them, I think.
Right.
So it's not worthless as a performance, but it's definitely not as engaging as it is for me inside doing it.
Right.
And that's something I think about a lot with a lot of my work. Like I said, I sit here with a flashlight, rolling flashlights on the floor. I'm like, whoa, this is incredible. And then,
Maybe I'm just high.
like it's super fun. It's super fun for me, but it's also good. It's fun for you to watch a little bit,
Yeah.
So that's cool too. But the other reference for this piece that I still think about all the time is there's a piece by Michael Motion called Time. And it's Michael Motion sitting on a box drum. What is it, like a
Cajon?
Yeah, cajon. Yeah, he's sitting on one of those. And there's actually a promotion picture. Like he has a picture on Google Images if you check him out. If you just search Michael Motion, you'll find this image.
Okay.
He didn't perform it many times, but I got to see it in St. Paul. And he's sitting on the drum, and he has one track, it's an arc going away from him there, and one going away from him there, and then a really short one in front of him. And those are mathematically computed to be the different lengths of throws. And again, because he made it about rhythm, and it's about the heartbeat.
Yeah.
So he's making the heartbeat on the drum, and then the one ball goes in 1 beat of the heartbeat, or then it takes like 4 beats of the heartbeat, or 2 beats of the heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of the craziest things I still can't even talk about, like articulate how good that was.
Cool.
Just like Michael Motion exploring rhythm with the different lengths of the balls about the heartbeat, and he's drumming and juggling the balls on the tracks.
Yeah.
That was just like the best thing I ever seen.
Nice.
So that's something I think about with this piece too. But he's not doing sight swaps, like he's just, in his own world. He's like, this is 1 beat of the heartbeat, and this is 2 beats of the heartbeat, and this is 4 beats of the heartbeat, or whatever.
Right.
But I was so convinced that like sight swap, because you can get really complex with the pattern, at least there's the mathematical progression. I'm like, that's gonna be so compelling, and then here it is. So yeah, I don't know. And it could be something about the aesthetic of it. Like, I don't know if the aesthetic is right. I don't hate the aesthetic. It's kind of nice. It's kind of fun.
It's like pagoda.
Yeah, exactly. And
Do you think that the sight swap machine is more or less relatable than juggling sight swap?
I mean, I guess less, because rolling a ball is not a thing.
Right.
But throwing if you saw, this is super quick answer, but like if someone would come and see me do this, you say, what is it? And they say, or no, you say, what is he doing? You always juggling, right?
Yeah.
Or like, hey, what is that person doing? It's juggling. But hey, what's that person doing?
Right.
Rolling balls.
Right.
Or like maybe juggling, but like in a weird way, right? I don't know.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and maybe if this used like multiple people, like 2 people, maybe it used throws as well. Because again, I get so stuck on like it's a rolling apparatus, so I can't do any throws because I want to really explore the object. I don't want to throw under my leg, you know. Maybe there's an aspect of that too. If it was, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
If I'm here and I'm running and then it's not even fun. I don't know. It sucks. But anyway, it was definitely an image that we thought about for years, like me and my friends, this rolling around.
Yeah.
Like, man, one circle would be this, and you do 5-3-1 with no throws. But then in the end, it all just looks like rolling balls.
Sure.
So
Interesting.
anyway, sight swap machine.
Yay.
And then this one here, I actually have a real story about.
Cool.
So this one was, this is probably the best one of these explorations, actually. Maybe I love everything today. I don't know.
I like this one.
See, there you go. no, but this has like a funny story behind it. So I was teaching at the circus school in Turku, Finland. I'd say in the year, I don't know, 2000 or 2001 or something. I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Must have been 2000 or something. And I always think that like when I teach juggling, I think the class is pretty easy in terms of it's not like, okay, what trick are you working on? Oh, you're working on the mess. Like, let's just do some of the mess now or whatever, right? It's more like, hey, you know, pick 2 throws that intersect and then do them backwards. Like, it's not straightforward. You have to think and work, but you're not lost. Like, there's a clear instructions.
Sure.
And for me personally, I think it's fun. Like, what do you mean find 2 throws that intersect? Oh, the paths cross. Okay, like, and then you get to play. I think it's fun. I get it that other people like struggle and suffer. Like, it's fine. But you know what I mean? Like, I think it's like an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's easy in terms of like, there's a structure and we're there to help each other, and it's juggling. It's not like brain surgery and like, you're getting to be in a school, a university. It's a university.
Right.
And you're getting to play with like trying to figure out like how objects relate to each other, and I mean, that's pretty awesome. I always think. And so I was in the class, and one thing about Turku Circus School is that all the students of any discipline, they all have to take every other discipline. So the handstand artists have to take juggling, and the aerialists have to take handstand, etc.
Yeah.
So I'm not teaching just the jugglers who enjoy juggling, but also the other people who don't enjoy juggling, and I totally get that. Like, no, you know, no problem with that, but I get it. You're in the situation where you're like, why am I doing this? I don't want to be here. And so I thought I was giving like a super good, easy class, and people were pretty bummed out, and they were just like, I don't want to be here, like I don't want to do this. And you know, they're like 20 years old, and it's like, come on, like you're in circus school, like let's, I don't know, do something with our lives, you know, and have some ambition and whatever, some curiosity. And I think the assignment was something about like, go find a place in the room and make a little juggling trick with 1 to 3 balls. That was the assignment. And I gave examples. I was like, you can go on the floor and roll a ball. That's good. You can go to the wall and bounce a ball off the wall. You could get a chair, you know, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember we did that assignment, and I gave them like 10 or 15 minutes to do that. I think pretty easy. And so we come back from the assignment, and I was like, all right, let's see what you guys made, or like, what did you all find? And then like, I don't think a single person in the class, like everybody's just like, oh, I didn't find anything. Oh, I couldn't do it. It didn't work. It was hard. I don't like to juggle, whatever. And I was like so frustrated. I was just so frustrated because I was like, how can this be such a disaster? And so that's the start of the story. And the other thing to know is that in every sports hall in Scandinavia, there's like a standardized set of equipment that's in the sports hall. Like we were in a sports hall like a gymnasium.
Sure.
And so there's standardized sports equipment that that the government since the 1940s or 50s like installs everywhere. And one of them is these like sets of bars that you can like pull up like against the wall.
I got you.
And then you use them for stretching, and you can climb them, and you can multi-purpose bars, whatever. So I was there like talking to the class, and I'm like, so let's see what you all made. And they're like, oh, we didn't find anything, or whatever. And I was like, no, but come on, like somebody show me. Like, no, we didn't. Like it was too hard. And I was like, are you kidding me? This is like the easiest thing to do. You could do anything. For example, and then I just took some balls from someone and I turned around and there was like those bars. And I was like, you could do anything. Like you could put the balls here and you could just like roll them, like whatever. Right?
That's badass.
Yeah, and then I was just, and then I was just like, oh, that was a good idea. That was a good idea.
Did everyone cheer?
No, they were super mad. They were still super not engaged. And what happened after that was, I said something like, okay, let's just I forgot about this. Yeah, so after I rolled that, I was like, I mental note like, that was kind of cool. and then I remember I said to them, okay, let's just start back from the basics. Like you guys, you don't want to like do some exploration with juggling. You just want to, okay, let's start with one ball. We're gonna juggle like this.
Yeah.
And I remember this one guy took the ball and he's like, or something. And I was like, look, you gotta throw the ball with some force, like with some energy. And all I remember him is taking the ball and looking at me, and then throwing the ball through the window, like breaking a window in the sports hall. And then he walked out. That was the kind of class I was dealing with at the time.
I can't believe someone has such strong feelings about juggling.
Yeah, it was just like, you have to throw the ball harder. And it was just like, okay.
Jesus.
And then I was like, oh, this is so fun. I'm not gonna teach here anymore. So then that day I just stayed there and I just started rolling balls around on the wall. And yeah, I had a really good time, again, like rolling the flashlights on the floor or whatever. And then I wanted to make a portable wall, basically. So this is my portable Scandinavian sports hall, whatever. I call it a bookshelf. I don't know, that's just what I always called it. I don't know why. But it was my bookshelf thing. And yeah, I performed this quite a lot. This was part of the show Building Weight as well. And again, maybe one of my more successful things. There's not a lot of new information that comes into the system, but there is something more maybe more compelling about the images, especially with the 5 balls. When you get like a snake going, it's really nice. Maybe not obvious like you would, like maybe to the point where you couldn't imagine that image until you saw it.
Sure.
And that's some sort of property of all these things we're doing today, where it's just like, a lot of the images you go, yeah, I could kind of imagine that would happen. But like with the 5 balls, when it starts to go a little bit weird, you go like, oh, that was a little bit unexpected at least. And so, yeah, this comes, this is also part of a whole other thing about the last few things to show you. But at the time when this was built, and some of the last few things to show you, when they were built, it was when Greg Kennedy had the bowl and York Miller was doing pendulums, but Cirque du Soleil was doing the show O in Vegas with the water show. And they had like Miguel Herrera was in Saltimbanco bouncing balls down the stairs and things like this. And I really wanted to be in Cirque du Soleil, and I don't remember why, but I was thinking my way into Cirque du Soleil was with some sort of architectural prop. So in a little way, like all these things I'm doing as well, is like in the back of my head, I'm like, this could be in the water in O, and it could be like waves.
Yeah.
Like the balls, like the balls are like waves. So like at the period of time when I was building a lot of these things, a lot of the ideas centered around like, oh, maybe this could work for Cirque du Soleil. And I think someone had told me, like I don't think that was a fantasy in my head. At some point, someone had told me, like, oh yeah, you should work on this kind of juggling. We're looking for that in the next show or something.
Yeah. In
the back of my brain, I was like, I would be in this room here, like building with my dad, like trying things out, being like, maybe this is the Cirque du Soleil contract. And so this was kind of an attempt at waves for O.
Cool.
And some other stuff like that, right?
Cool.
Pretty random.
I got you. I see it.
I think I like this prop a lot. I think the thing it still lacks, which I tried to fix, I toured this in Iceland like 10 years ago, and I tried to fix it, but it didn't work, is just the design. Like I'm not so happy with the design of like, it's just this boxy shape like on these legs, and I feel like there should be some sort of like reflection of the movement of the balls in the design of the prop. Right, so like you get this nice fluid shape of the balls rolling. It's very mesmerizing and kind of hypnotic or slow motion,
Sure.
soft.
Yeah.
And this is a very structural, right angles, not soft,
Mhm.
kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is there something weird about the design? And I tried different sorts of aesthetics or like angles on the legs and stuff, like counterbalance and stuff, and
Okay.
it didn't really go anywhere yet. So
Huh.
I don't think the final design is done. We also made it out of acrylic for a show in Sweden. It was hanging from the ceiling, so it was on fishing line,
Mhm.
and then the whole thing was acrylic, and that had the same problem as before. Like, you know, maybe on paper that sounds like a really good idea, but in real life, it is the relationship of the structure. So it's not about the balls floating in space.
Sure.
I don't think it's a magic trick.
Mhm.
It's better to see that it's rolling on a rail and you still get that optical effect.
Mhm.
It's somehow stronger than like pretending this is not here.
Interesting.
Which is why I painted it white and not black again. I think
Right.
it really suffers when you don't see the structure.
Got it. Interesting.
But this is always a conflict of like, how do you find that harmony of like visual hierarchy, that the balls are more in focus than this in my body, and then just like logistical support of like, I don't know if this could be more organically, like maybe in the end the coolest thing would be if you have, you know, 5 or 10 people and there is no structure, they just have like sticks of wood and they're like making shapes or something, and then they're like ding, and then you come out and you do it.
Yeah.
That could be more in harmony with the,
Sure.
I don't know,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So
Huh.
yeah, this is maybe the,
too.
yeah,
Hold the sticks.
there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Call them. No, but so this is maybe the best thing I made out of all these things, I guess,
Cool.
so far.
Oh, yeah.